From Texas is recognized.
Mr. President, are we in a quorum call?
We're not.
I appreciate that, Mr. President. After months of, well, I won't call it infighting, I'll call it intra-party negotiating. Our Democratic colleagues are still trying to reach an agreement on their multi-trillion-dollar tax and spending spree legislation. They've yet to decide how much money they want to spend. I think they started, the senator from Vermont started at $6 trillion, and then we heard it was $3.5 trillion, and now we're hearing that it may be more on the order of what the senator from West Virginia has said was his cap of $1.5 trillion. We still also don't know how much they are willing to raise taxes to cover the costs, or how far they want to move America into a European welfare state. Still, our colleagues are trying to reach a deal in a matter of days. Our colleagues are rushing to compile the largest peacetime tax hike in American history and see just how much government overreach those hard-earned tax dollars can buy. Some members experience buyer's remorse before even swiping the taxpayer's credit card. So our colleagues are trying to scale back this massive spending bill. We read, but we don't know, but it's reported that they've cut certain programs, like free college, which despite the name, we know that free programs actually cost money because somebody has to pay for it. We also read that they're scaling back other plans, including paid leave and the expanded child tax credit, to reduce the short-term costs and hope for more money down the line. And I think if truth be told, once these policies are established, many times they're very difficult to repeal later on, which is why they're trying to establish a toehold, even for a short period of time. But even with these pared-down proposals, there's still plenty of government overreach to go around. One of the biggest dreams of our Democratic colleagues is government-run health care. We've heard the left embrace Medicare for all as its rallying cry. Well, the senator who popularized that policy is now chairman of the Senate Budget Committee, Senator Sanders, and he wields a lot of power when it comes to this particular tax and spending bill. It's no surprise that his top priority is a dramatic expansion of Medicare. Initially, we read that our colleagues wanted to lower the age of Medicare eligibility by 5 or 10 years, making tens of millions of younger Americans eligible for this benefit. This, of course, comes at a time when Medicare is in financial trouble already. In just 5 years, the Trust Fund for Medicare Part A is scheduled to go insolvent. It hardly seems like while your boat is in danger of sinking to add more and more people into the boat. Instead of fixing those problems or providing stability for Medicare, our colleagues want to spread those waning dollars even thinner. The sky-high cost of expanding eligibility seems to have eliminated that provision. Again, this is based on reporting, since no one's actually seen the documents. But a massive expansion of benefits apparently is still being discussed. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated that this expansion would cost more than $350 billion in the first 10 years. We'll see if the chairman of the Budget Committee is able to keep this provision off the chopping block. But this is only part of the plan to put the government in greater control of our daily lives, of all Americans' daily lives. Another big-ticket item, which certainly must poll well, is free child care. Again, nothing's free. It just means somebody, not you, is having to pay for it. But free programs, as it turns out, don't come cheap. In this case, the original price tag was pegged at $450 billion. The American people won't just pay more in taxes to cover this program. Many families will end up spending more on child care. One left-leaning think tank analyzed the impact of this free child care bill and found that it's likely to have a devastating impact on middle-class families. According to the People's Policy Project, the Democrats' child care plan would cause middle-class families to pay more than $13,000 more a year in child care. That's not just a price increase for the top 1%. That's for people who earn more than their state's median income, which in Texas is just under $62,000. It's hard to imagine a family of four that brings home $62,000 a year having an extra $13,000 to spend on child care, especially when they're already being pummeled by inflation and rising costs. We'll see whether all the ways that President Biden was wrong when he said that my Build Back Better agenda costs $0. Of course, nobody believes that, but the president keeps saying it over and over and over again. But the American people are pretty smart, and they understand when the wool's being pulled over their eyes or when they're being sold a bill of goods by saying, yeah, we're going to spend $3.5 trillion, but it's actually going to cost $0. It's really an insult to their intelligence. Our colleagues across the aisle have also proposed a litany of tax increases on families, workers, and small businesses to cover part of the costs of this massive spending bill. And they hope the increase in the size and power of the Internal Revenue Service will make sure that Big Brother doesn't miss anything. The administration wants to double the size of the Internal Revenue Service by increasing the number of agents by 15% every year for the next decade. Well, we've already seen what a politically motivated IRS can do. We know about the leaking of taxpayer information recently, and we remember the IRS targeting controversy during the Obama administration. IRS bureaucrats subjected conservative groups to a double standard when it came to scrutiny compared to left-leaning groups, nonprofit groups. And it looks like the Biden administration may want to dust off that old playbook. The administration also wants to give the IRS unprecedented power to snoop in your bank account. The administration proposed requiring banks to give the IRS data on accounts with more than $600 in annual transactions. So that means every time you bought a washing machine or a refrigerator, you paid your rent, maybe your mortgage, maybe bought a car, that information would be reported to the IRS. The IRS already knows how much you earn because that's reported, but that's apparently not enough for the IRS surveillance. They want to make sure that the IRS, like Big Brother, knows everything you do, everywhere you go, and who you associate with. Well, this was a $600 annual transaction minimum, and of course that's for an entire year. It's easy to see how that would swoop up virtually everybody in this new government surveillance program. This obviously is not designed to catch billionaires evading their tax responsibilities. It's tough to imagine somebody who wouldn't get caught up in that threshold over the course of an entire year. A single month of rent is higher than $600 in most Texas cities. Well, we know what happened. The blowback was so fierce that our Democratic colleagues said, well, it's not going to be $600 a year. We'll up it to $10,000 a year. But yeah, we'll continue the surveillance of your personal, private financial information just so we are sure we don't miss anybody. Well, even at a threshold of $10,000, a widow who gets a monthly stipend from Social Security for $1,500 a month would obviously be a target of IRS snooping under this proposal. It's pretty obvious this is a huge violation of personal privacy, and people are rightfully angry about it. I think people are angry because they don't want to be presumed to be a tax cheat by their own government. I've received letters from nearly 60,000 of my constituents who are opposed to such massive government overreach and invasion of their privacy. And we know it's also an incredible financial and paperwork burden on financial institutions, community banks, credit unions, and the like. Imagine the time and the people and the hours necessary to comply with this new surveillance by your own government. Transmitting the sensitive financial information of almost every customer of a bank or financial institution to the IRS would involve a lot of time and a lot of money that these banks may, or credit unions may or may not have. I've co-sponsored a bill with Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina to prevent the IRS from monitoring American citizens' private financial information. And I was pleased to see our colleague from West Virginia, Senator Manchin, cast doubt on the future of this controversial and unnecessary provision. The truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter if the price tag of this bill is $5.5 trillion, $3.5 trillion, or $1.5 trillion. The goal is the same: to permanently transform America and the role that government plays in our everyday lives. Whether that's through the healthcare system, child care, or through the IRS, there's no line too sacred to cross in pursuit of this ideological nirvana. Our colleagues continue working behind closed doors to determine just how much socialism they want to force on the American people. We still don't know how much this bill will cost. Again, nobody has seen it yet outside of the small group of Democrats who are actually negotiating it, or how much harm it will actually inflict. But we do know one thing, that this is not what the American people bargained for in the last election. The American voter elected a 50-50 Senate. It reduced the Democrat majority in the House and took President Biden at his word when he promised to work in a bipartisan fashion across the aisle. This is not what the American people bargained for. They did not vote to make Joe Biden the next FDR, and they did not vote to have this Buy Back Better bill, or Build Back Better bill, the next New Deal. We will continue to do, once we are able to find out precisely what's in this bill, to do everything we can to fight against this irresponsible taxing and spending bonanza. Mr. President, I yield the floor.